Susan, thank you for joining us tonight. It's a real honor to be able to talk about the film with you in person. And, I read in the press notes for the film that this is your first feature film role.
Yes.
That's very impressive.
Thank you.
That is very impressive.
Thank you.
I wanted to start by asking you actually about the audition process for the film. I don't know if there was an audition process or some other process by which you got to know Rungano and sort of get this role. And I'm curious because so much of the film is about unsaid things, and so much of Shula's presence in the film is about holding things in and saying things without explicitly saying them. And I'm very curious what sort of Rungano was looking for in an actress and how she found you, really.
Wow. Firstly, I didn't think about what I wore because this is not really a sitting down thing, but sitting here going, ooh, good for the posture. There was an audition process. I can't tell you what I think Rungano was looking for. That would be for her to answer. But I do know that with my process, we got the audition with the casting director, as you do, and then went through the round with that. And then I had a Skype call with Rungano. It was the first time I'd met her. And then he went from that to being thrown in the deep end, doing some improv with the aunties, which was really interesting, needless to say. And they really, grill you. And she wanted to see, I guess, the dynamics and the relationships of how you would handle that. And because obviously with our culture, there's that, you've got to have that respect, but you've also got to find your place to speak up as an adult. When you're a child, you're always... in an African household, you do as you're told. So as you get older, you've got to find your voice. And, so I guess maybe she wanted to see the balance of how I would handle being, I guess, not interrogated, but just that interaction with the aunties. So, after we did that, I then got told I got the role, and
Wow, you had to pass the auntie test.
Yeah.
And
basically.
I'm actually curious about the aunties. Are all of them professional actresses from film or stage backgrounds, the whole ensemble of women in the film?
Not everybody is, but a lot of them were, yes. Okay. They had done TV and film before in Zambia, and there were a few people who Rungano had casted, I guess for her own, she'll know why she had casted, but they were all incredible, like such incredible women to work with.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about the culture aspect of the film. So what is really incredible about Rungano's first film, I'm Not a Witch, and this one, is she has this ability to really portray what's so special about African culture, but Zambian culture, and I know it's Bemba culture in the film. The amazing collective spirit of the culture, the way you share an emotion with each other, the way you engage in these rituals and you make explicit things that often go implicit, and at the same time show the flip side, that how that can actually engender certain cultures of silence, how that can, there's these characters in the film who fear that if they talk about what happened to them, they will break the togetherness of the family. And so, you're Zambian. You were just telling me you grew up for the first 7-8 years of your life in Zambia before moving to England. How did you sort of relate to the film from that cultural aspect?
For me, it was, first of all, it was really special to film this in Zambia and just being fully immersed back in that side of my culture. I'm British and Zambian. But I always say my soul is Zambian, so to be able to go back where I really feel my soul is from and to film there and to do such an important film for not just the Zambian culture, but for a lot of people worldwide who experienced, what Shula and Nsansa and Wupe went through. And I think it was just really important. But on the culture side, for me, as I said, I left Zambia, went to school in England from about 7 or 8 years old. So the culture was still embedded in me, and I didn't want to forget the culture just because I had left. So I tried to kind of stay connected to it. So going back there and spending such a large amount of time to film this there was really special for me.
And certain specific aspects of mourning in Zambian and Bemba culture, like the kind of wailing and crying, and the film is a lot about these rules that accompany the funereal process. Can you talk about that? I mean, had you experienced those before? Did you have to sort of learn some of that while making the film? And I think there might be people who have never seen that before in the audience, who haven't seen how Zambian sort of grieving, mourning culture is. So maybe you could say a little bit about that.
Well, some of it I haven't seen either, I've got to be honest. No, I hadn't, prior to filming this, for personal reasons, and also because I was living between Zambia and England, I personally hadn't been to a Zambian funeral. So the interesting part for me was speaking to some of the aunties and getting to learn about what really goes on, with... There's so much that happens in the funeral, as you saw, from... who's doing the cooking, who's doing the organization, but also in terms of the idea, which I think some people might find a bit strange, of being told how to mourn. I don't know if it happens in other cultures, but it does, yes. So it really is a case of, if you're not expressing or enough, or not crying enough, one of the aunties telling, you look like, you're not even crying for him, kind of thing. It really is like that, because they feel like it's your way of showing, I guess, more love, or I don't know if it's respect, but towards the person that's passed. And yeah, it was something I really had to kind of learn to an extent, just to see, I guess, from the perspective of, say, for some of you guys that don't really know the culture, would look at that and go, is it really like that? It really is in certain parts of Zambia, and I think it was important to show that and share that with you guys from a cultural standpoint.
So, you don't actually fully understand what the movie is about, or, what's the kind of dark heart of the movie until a little of the way in. The movie very slowly builds up to the revelation of what kind of person Uncle Fred was and the harm he caused to the women in his family. But you feel it. You feel it early on, even though it's not said. And can you talk about approaching that from that performance standpoint, as an actor, communicating what it's, this kind of, the trauma that a lot of women and a lot of people actually carry without being able to speak it, and what that was like for the first half of the film, how your performance is so slowly cluing us in on what has happened without it ever being said.
I think that was obviously what Rungano wanted to kind of see the story building and progressing through the film. For me, it was more, it was finding, between myself and Rungano, obviously, was finding that balance of finding a way to speak volumes without actually speaking. So that, I think, was the tough, it was tough to kind of find that zone where where Rungano would be like, okay, I really like that, but let's tone it down, or I need a bit more of that. So we kind of work together to find that balance, and I think it's really important to show that, not all the time in these situations, it's not a big reveal moment. Sometimes it is simmering, and sometimes something happens to you and you really don't know how to communicate that, or you don't know how to even like express yourself in certain surroundings because it reminds you of the person that was in that room. Or so it was just kind of immersing myself within being in that house that we filmed in, which in my head was the house that all these things happened in. So it was just how I'd relate to that couch. Was that the couch I was on, or was that, do you know what I mean? Like finding my own way and my own process of connecting to the things around me in the rooms that we were shooting in and outside. And then, yeah, it was between that and obviously, I mean, Rungano was incredible, yeah. Her directing me. We found that medium, yeah.
Another very interesting aspect of the film for me is most of it, I mean, it's about the actions of this man who was dead and about the process of mourning him. But most of the film takes place among women. You know, it's all interactions between women, and it's actually women who are both reaching out to help each other and silencing each other. I mean, it's women are enacting both sides of that coin and often like walking this balance between being victims and passing on their own traumas to the next generation. Can you talk a little bit about that, this like very almost matrilineal aspect to the film?
I think it was tough because if you think about it, well, now we like to think of it as women for women, you know, women helping women, but it's really hard, I think, for people to break generational trauma, and you've got to find your way of accepting what's happened to then try and figure out how to go forward with it. And I think, obviously with us as the young people in on one side, and then our parents and our aunties on the other, it's really tough, I think, to find a place where you're respecting the culture and your elders and what they have been through, but you also want to find your voice to say, actually, you know what, this has got to stop. This is not right. I don't care what you've been through, but I respect what you've been through. I respect you, but we can't continue this, because if someone doesn't do something about it, it's going to be ongoing, and you know it will keep going. So I think those back and forths needed to be had. Obviously, culturally, as I said, growing up, you wouldn't speak back. I don't know if any of you are from an African household, but you wouldn't speak back to your elders. Yeah, it's really disrespectful, however old you are. Even now, I think, yeah, you've got to pick your words wisely before you speak back. But yeah, I do think you've got to find a way to push through to break that cycle. Through discussion or just courage, brave, you know, being brave.
Shula's style in the film is very striking. Actually, the whole film is visually just so striking, you know, it really pops, but especially the clothes, the makeup. I mean, that amazing opening shot, you in that Missy Elliott costume. I mean, I want that whole costume for Halloween, including the like fake diamond studded, like, you know, helmet. Can you talk about that? Like, what was the process of costume design like, and how did that kind of influence your understanding of the character?
God, that outfit, I've got to say, it was fun, but it was the hottest thing I've ever worn in my life. I'm not going to lie. I was sweating. We had to have fans that every time they'd say cut, I'd have like two people putting their hands inside my outfit to put fans in there. So as much as it looked amazing, it was a whole process to shoot it. But I got to say though, when I put on the helmet, I was like, yes, this is a real, like this should be Shula at the end. And she comes in and she, like, you know, that's how I felt. But it wasn't. I was like, do you not want to, like, you know, get her like to come back with that one, just as a joke, right? But yeah, it was really fun to wear that, and I think I would have liked to see a little bit more of her in that, like to just feel a little bit of where she'd come from that night. Yeah. That would have been fun. But then going back to, like, we call it a chitenge, is what the wrap that she was wearing, and the outfits that the ladies wear, that's called the chitenge, the material. So when she, you know, had to wear that with a shirt, I don't know if I would have called it stylish, but but it's part of the...
I mean, I don't know. Everything looked very stylish in the film to me.
Yeah, but it was the tradition and the colours. It's beautiful, yeah, the colours and the way they're put together. And that's all down to, I guess, the wardrobe, and also Rungano's creativity of saying, we were all like, wait, because some people didn't realise it was Missy Elliott. So yeah, I'm glad you did. Not everyone does actually. When they see that, they're like, "Oh, is this like sci-fi?" Like, no, it's Missy Elliott.
It's super duper fly.
Yeah, there you go. Love that.
Just last question. You know, the film ends in this way that just left me like trembling, like it doesn't resolve everything. It leaves you on the cusp of possibility. Yeah? Here's this, again, communal ritual, this discussion, and you see Shula and these other young women walk towards like sort of the camera, and then just that's it. What do you want people to take away from that ending? I mean, what did you make of that?
Wow. For me, I think it's really important for everybody who watches it to take something away from it that is personal to you. Because male or female, it doesn't matter who, male, female, you know, from Africa, not black, white, whatever. Everybody will take something different away from it because it will affect each and every one of us differently, right? So the main thing I would say with that is that collectively, I think the important thing to remember is that it's just don't stay in silence. Whatever it is, it's really important not to be silent and to carry something yourself, because you really don't know until you start to speak to other people about anything, the slightest thing to do with that issue, and you actually find out sadly that they're going through the same thing or have been through the same thing. So I think silence is real criminal. I think that's my main thing, and I also think it's the ending to me is like when Rungano told me that, you know, she actually didn't tell me. She was like, "You'll see what the ending is." I was like, "Wait, what?" And then obviously after I saw it, I was like, "Oh my God, I get it." Like, it just leaves it, you know, some people think I burned the house down and some people think you know, which I was like, that could have been cool. When someone said, "Do you burn the house down in your head?" And I was like, yeah, I probably should have, right? But yeah, I think it's really important for everyone to take away what they can for themselves from it. Yeah, and it's also it's a quietly empowering film throughout, and I think at the end it's supposed to make you think that you're for me, it made me personally feel like, you know what, I'm worthy, and I have a voice, and I need to use it, not just for myself but for other people. And I think Shula actually finds her voice through trying to speak for others. So yeah, I would say no to silence, I'd say.
Well, on that beautiful note.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this film, and thank you to this lovely audience. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so
tonight.
much for coming, everyone. Thank you so much.